You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to have an awesome conversation around AI, around data, the current state of agentic, its kind of interoperability due to what I think is a lot of disparate data that large companies have, small companies have, and kind of some of the roadblocks that are out there. So I have a couple of really cool guests on today, Wesley and Justin. But Wesley, I'll kick it to you if you want to do a brief intro, and then you can kick it to Justin, and then we'll jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Aaron, and thanks for having us both on today. It's great to have the opportunity to have the conversation with you and connect with your community as well. My name is Wesley Wilson. I'm the head of the U.S. and Canada for the Consumer Goods Forum. My background is in consumer goods investment. Also spent time at both Walmart and Mars. The Consumer Goods Forum, they're really the organization that looks to advance the future of retail and consumer goods. We're CEO led. Our board is all CEOs, and those are our primary participants. We're innovation focused, and we're global, and we're multi-channel, multi-category. So we work across kind of the whole range of consumer goods, the consumer space. And we're really kind of thinking about what's out there, what's next, whether that's intelligent commerce, adaptive value chains, how the consumer is changing and thriving. And we do that with a range of different industry solutions, but then also events like our Global Summit, which is coming up here in Vienna this year and will be in San Francisco in 2027.
Awesome. Justin.
Hey. Great to be here. Thanks so much. Justin Honaman. I lead worldwide retail, restaurants, consumer goods, business development. I sit at AWS at Amazon. We're a part of the Consumer Goods Forum, hence why we're both here today. We really excited to have the conversation with you. Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, 100%. Because this is a great conversation. I'm getting pinged with this all the time. And it is around AI, agentic. If it's not part of every single conversation, it is 99 out of 100 right now. We're going to put on a ton of events this year specifically around it. And one of the struggles that I have, and one of the reasons I wanted to do a deep dive on this, was around the data side. When we talk about agentic, when you're talking about AI as a whole and this prediction engine, it's garbage in, garbage out, or fantastic things in and fantastic things out. And that is driven by the data side. And I don't talk to a lot of companies that have really, really, really clean data. And I'd love to just kind of open that conversation up. Like Wesley's like, is that what you're seeing? Is that something you're struggling with today? And then obviously Justin, jump in. This is just going to be a great conversation.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll start. Yes, everyone's in a different place. Right. So there's kind of a whole range of, I think, data quality out there, but as well, even when the data is high quality, getting it to match up across organizations, getting people to understand across organizations what everyone's kind of different situation is, but it always has been a challenge for the industry naturally, right? And that is part of what the Consumer Goods Forum does. Is that we work with our member companies, member partners to really help think about how to create those standards and common ways of working across the industry that then create efficiency, that create great competition, and that really allow things like agentic to work in a way that serves the consumer in the best way possible.
But is it going to be, it seems to me like there needs to be like a next step, and maybe this is right, but how I'm playing it out in my head is it's almost like there needs to be a standardization layer. So I think about like when a Salsify came on or a One World Sync or whoever it might be, there's a layer that is in between the companies and then, the actual, I would say a lot in the CPG, but the consumer goods space as a whole. and then we'll say listing onto a marketplace or something like that. They're like this intermediary layer. And it's almost like we need something to be built out that can harvest the data from brands, standardize it, organize it. And then at that point in time, all these AI tools can plug in. But
that's kind of happening today. I mean, like that, it really, you have to rewind the clock a couple of years back when generative AI started. I mean, it shined a light on a lot of the data challenges that major consumer goods brands have had for years. And a lot of the big CPGs have grown through acquisition. So they might have, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 versions of ERP. They got point of sale data coming in from retailers into data platforms. They've got Nielsen IQ data, Circana data coming in. Matching that up is still happening largely in spreadsheets and access databases even to this day. And this because of just how those companies have grown. So even to do generative AI was a challenge. So Agentic, we're recording this end of April 2026. So we're about 15 months in, 16 months into really when Agentic kind of became the, like you said, topic every day. But what's happened is it's moved faster than generative AI. It's become more real. You can put agents to work now, and the platforms are there. The governance is there. You don't have to have all your data in one place, but you're absolutely right, Aaron. The challenges around data cleanliness and master data management and like getting access to data to be able to run any sort of agents or models against those.
So what are companies doing today to get that in place? Because I know from a C-suite level, executive team, they're pushing AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, and then what I've seen happen, especially over the past year, as teams go to try out tools, right? A lot of those large companies are isolated to like a Microsoft suite, right? They can use Copilot and that's it. Well, they're trying to get these tools and they're plugging them in. Number one, that does break down because of the data, but even the ones that get to work, a lot of those are getting shut off from the IT and the security teams, because especially at a larger organization, it only takes 2% of people, which might be 3,000, to start plugging in AI tools, and there's an impact on the network at that point in time, and there's security issues. So I don't know, how are they handling this? And maybe the answer is we're just figuring out how to handle it.
Well, the tech is moving faster than most companies can keep up with, and for sure is moving faster than any sort of governance or kind of how it's can be managed in the organization. I mean, if you look at the news every week right now, there's new large language models being released. There's new partnerships in the AI space. It's kind of changing weekly or every couple of weeks right now, and many organizations are like, they're just trying to run the business. So they're leaning into, tech partners, SIs, consulting partners, strategy consulting partners to help them navigate that, because quite frankly, they don't have the people, the skills, or the time they've really got to, they're focused on running the business, let alone, trying to do this AI thing. So that's one thing I would observe. Wesley?
Yeah. I would say I think the point that you're making, Aaron, I think about it slightly differently in that I think most of the leaders in our community, most of the CEOs are attuned to this data challenge. They know it, they understand that it's there, and they know that they have to get their arms around it to be successful with Agentic and then whatever's next. I think it's a question. What everyone is so there's awareness of the challenge. It is this question of speed, right? So how do you move given the pace at which everything is moving? There are some companies that had the foresight to kind of see this coming down the road, and they've been preparing themselves for this transition and the demands of this environment. But then, others are, more recently started, and I think that's the speed is really the challenge. I think in many cases the awareness is there.
So you asked there, and you asked real quick about what are the what are the indicators of that companies are moving? So we've seen certainly a ramp up and acceleration of move to cloud. I mean, if you look at the AWS, for example, growth rate over the last couple of quarters, it's the fastest it's been in 13 quarters. And that's not just us. Look across the industry. You're seeing significant investments in in the actual platforms to do AI, right? Or in the agentic case, you want to have access to platforms where you can manage agents in a secure environment and then be able to govern those versus letting them be out of control. Like if you look at back when we did RPA, like you could have business people writing RPA code, move to a different job, and nobody even knows it's running. Okay, so that's not acceptable in the world of agentic commerce. So and so that's a second indicator. And then, many of these big CPG brands are really looking for help with talent. As much as there's a lot of discussion around, changes in organizations, like I think there's a real opportunity for upskilling and talent acquisition, and not only the consumer goods brands, but on the retail side, to be able to take advantage of some of the AI capabilities.
Yeah, I guess that was where I was going next, was just going to be on the staffing side, because are they bringing in... There's this weird time of upskilling right now. Like it's always like the HR teams that would be going out, it's really tough to have them go in and evaluate, hey, this is a clear AI data scientist leader. It's tough because it's so early. So is it upskilling you're seeing a lot of, or is it consultants that they're bringing in? Or is there a bridge? Is it a combination of both? Like, I guess then, okay, I understand I have a data problem. I'm thinking from a either executive level or the team's level. Okay, we know we have a data problem. We have oceans and oceans, not even a data lake, oceans of data now. How do we handle it? Okay, is that a hire? Are there like the consulting teams you're bringing in? Like, is there a standard that people are using right now to essentially get step one done, which is the data piece?
So, all right, I'll take a first stab at that. Yeah. So, I mean, this is where in the data space, this is why you've seen an explosion in interest in companies, whether it be the Amazons or Microsofts or Databricks and Snowflake. I mean, in terms of the data platforms for grabbing what you need from different sources and then enabling, AI on top of that. So that's one thing. But on the talent piece, I was with two big beverage companies this week, early in the week. So the first one, they specifically called out talent gaps. And in other words, they need talent on their team to be able to use some of the new AI, be able to even to dive into some of the new AI, tech platforms and capabilities, right? They need that talent in the organization. And they're also leaning on a major SI, a big consulting organization, to help them, at least in the short term. But they don't want to pay those large fees over, the longer term. The company I was with the second day, a different beverage company, like they've already upskilled. So they've spent time, they already had a pretty sizable, I'll call it AI and machine learning team, like kind of core team. So they've been able to move faster to, I'll say, pick up some of the new skills, understand some of the new models, and take advantage of some of the new platforms. But both of them actually brought up what you said, that line of business leaders can go and access these tools on their own without talking to IT. But what happens is when they need data, they've got to come to the technical team to go to get access to that. So that's where there is a challenge. Right? But right now, you're right. It's very easy to have proliferation and using different types of tools in the business.
Yeah. I think the other concern I would say that we see kind of leaders grappling with is there is this, I think it is, as Justin's describing, a combination, right? Again, depends on where you are on the continuum, but almost always it's a combination of new internal talent as well as kind of the right external partners that are coming to the table. But then I think what companies are really grappling with is as they set themselves up for this kind of new landscape, how do they maintain how do they prevent lock-in? How do they maintain control of the data? How do they actually create an environment for themselves? And that's kind of I think a very sensitive point, and very much at the forefront of the consciousness of our kind of CEOs, is how do they kind of build this in a way where they are going to have degrees of freedom to be able to really step into whatever's next. This is going to continue to evolve, so they don't want to get locked in to the status quo today and then not be able to pivot in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months as the landscape evolves.
Yeah, I did on the data piece, I did a podcast a while back with Tim Armstrong over at Flow Code. So, and one of the things he was saying was about the data piece, and he was calling this out. It was probably a year and a half ago, maybe a little more. Grab as much data as you can, like grab as much data, consumer data as you can around your customer, because that data is going to be the new currency that you're going to be able to go buy the next customer with via feeding it into different AI tools as they pop up. That being the case, like it is this weird thing of I need as much data, I need to utilize it, I need to have it available to as many people and as many programs that need it as possible, and yet I need to keep it safe. Like that's and that's tough, and it's just
but companies are already very successfully using generative AI with all kinds of different data. I mean, whether it be in the advertising space and determining where to do ad spend, whether it's in summarization of reviews, creating images and videos, like all of that, it's all being done now very well, very, very successfully. So I'd say, I mean, companies have figured out good ways to use, especially generative AI. And AI has been around since the 50s. It's not like that's new. It's more of some of the new capabilities. And so it's not that companies aren't doing it. It's just taking advantage of some of what's new, like with Agentic, is challenging kind of the legacy issues of data, right? And data not being integrated or clean.
Yeah, and it's, I think, also getting comfortable with the agent doing something for you. I think a lot of people still want the loop. I think we've all used the LLMs, and they're great, right? I use a bunch of them. They all make mistakes. It's pretty crazy. I have a lot of email connections, and I was just trying to set up within Copilot and Power Automate to read when an email comes in, and then just draft the response and get it ready to go back out that I can then proofread. I spent 2 hours as it walked me through. And then when I went to test it, it just came back and said, actually, your version of 365 doesn't do that. The interesting thing is, and my wife brought this up, was we get in this idea of prompting, though. She's like, why didn't you ask it to verify that it could actually do what you were asking it to do at the get-go? And I was like, that's actually an amazing thing. It's this prompting space when you're using it, right? Like, prompting is going to be everything at some point in time.
And so the idea with agents, so an interesting use case would be also, like if you think about a consumer goods brand that might have multiple systems in supply chain, if you take that functional area, you could have agents owning different aspects of the supply chain, plugging into different systems and coordinating across. Or in retail, you've got stores data coming in, you've got inventory. You could have an agent for each and then managing store inventory replenishment. So, and these are things that our customers we're working with are doing now. I would say that, like I said, it's moving just a much faster pace than generative AI, which took a bit to get really rolling.
Yeah, I think your point, Aaron, about prompting, I mean, that's an entry into, I think, a larger conversation just in terms of, again, kind of ways of working across organizations and how different companies have approached their philosophy for kind of their different global teams. And if you really you see the companies that have made an intentional effort to not only invest in talent over time financially, but invest in upskilling, not only from a technical point of view, but this kind of art and science of being able to kind of think through, whatever the challenge is in front of you and probe it in the right way and kind of ask the right questions. The companies that are able to, that are kind of moving in a way that are able to get their arms around kind of these opportunities that Agentic presents, you are kind of seeing that, I think, emerge as a critical element. Again, not only like the technical knowledge and the ability to work with data, but then also in the broader workforce, it's like, hey, how can my people use these tools to be kind of more empowered, be more independent actors, and actually tackle the problems that are in front of them so that they can, really work to serve the customer well. And so those companies that have historically had that culture and developed it, they have a real strength there. those that have had a different approach, I think they're kind of opening up to that opportunity. That's like, wow, I've got to empower my teams even down to the store level in a different way.
And I think a lot of that is that freedom to fail.
Yeah.
I think people have to, a lot of people I'm talking to on the teams level, even director, associate director, VP level, I say they have to be comfortable failing. It's almost, I see, I touch my background as I'm a chemist, right? And I put stuff in the R&D landscape of, in this space, you almost need an R&D type mindset that I need to invest in all of this money that I'm putting in technically is going towards no direct return on investment. But I have to be doing it so that I can be at the forefront for when something finally hits, because things are moving so fast now. You can't be a year behind on some of this stuff. You can't wait to be a fast follower, where a fast follower is a year or a year and a half out. You'll be so far behind, it'll be difficult to catch up. And I think, like, where are companies at today, I guess, would be the question. Like, does everybody feel like they're at square one and that the rest of the world is at square two? Or
definitely not.
No, I don't think so. Go ahead, Justin.
I think you could take, look at an example like Mondelez. I mean, you have a CTO there that is naturally curious, that vibe codes on the weekend, that has tested out some of the newest tools and also has a vision for where that organization go. And you have a CEO that's aligned that, AI is a priority. Look at PepsiCo with Ramon as a CEO. He understands AI and data and why it's important. I mean, I could go down the list and that's what's changed in the last couple of years is, it started off as a, what's this new AI thing, or, exciting AI, generative AI. And then now, but many of these companies are moving quickly. They're investing in talent. They've got technology leaders that are curious and not just doing servers, I'll call it. And I think those are the ones that are moving very quickly. Quite frankly, I think they have natural challenges with like old school ERP systems. I mean, it's not easy to take legacy ERP and move it to cloud, or multiple legacy ERPs and clean that up. I mean, it's a years long project. And I think there is hope that somehow that could be, simplified in the AI space. But right now that's not the case. So, I mean, that's a lot of times what the technical debt that these companies have to deal with that holds them back. Now, the food and beverage startups, look at those guys. They're all digital native brands. They've launched in cloud. So, they can do all kinds of things with personalization and product development and innovation that the big guys can't. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think, Aaron, your point about, well, you can't be a year behind. It requires, I think, it still requires you to have a clearer picture of what your value proposition is, right? So, in this entire range of technological options and what Agentic can do, both on the brand and the retail side, you have to be razor sharp in terms of, hey, this is why my customer values me. This is what my relationship is. And some of that may be like a fully digital, some versions of that are, hey, it's about convenience. It's about that kind of fully integrated omni-channel experience. And that's what I need to provide to the customer. And others are kind of answering that question in a way where it's like, well, actually, no, I'm not going to go down the omni-channel road, but I'm going to provide like the best in-store experience possible, right? So I want my retail experience to be an absolute delight. And so the technological work that I'm going to do, the data work that I'm going to do, the investments that I'm going to make, they're going to not kind of, I'm not going to dip a toe in kind of all the different versions of like formats and omni-channel and everything else, but I'm actually going to really hone in on, boy, when someone steps in my store, they're going to have the best experience possible. But that's going to be backed by kind of these agentic tools in kind of the data sets that really bring that in-store experience to a pinnacle and to the forefront. So people are, they're in and they want to be back over and over again.
I mean, I get it. That's the personalization side today, right? That's all. Then going back to the data, how do you understand? But it's very interesting that we're at a time now. If I think back even like 4 or 5 years, CDPs were out there, and it's going to be at some point in time, you couldn't get it down to a one-to-one interaction because you were saying, hey, it's not worth it. You just get them into a cohort, and maybe that cohort, is, 1 million people or whatever, 100,000 and 10,000, whatever it is. And now with the computing power, you can get almost one-to-one. It's individual experiences, whether it's going to translate in store, right? But online, I'll do 8 dinners on that this year because you can't detect who is there, how many times they've been, what do they like, what have they bought in the past, what other places they've been, and it's ingesting it, then it's giving them a personalized recommendation. And everybody that goes to the site could have a different site experience.
Sure. Yeah. Personalization is an excellent example of where AI is really ramped up. I mean, and it's you can measure the results very quickly, right? With personalization. Same thing with search, on-site search, off-site search landing onto, that's been a huge topic in retail the last 6 to 8 months. Is okay, what if I start my search on Perplexity? How am I going to make sure my site's discoverable? And then once I'm on the site, look at what Amazon's launched with Amazon Rufus for conversational commerce. Well, what if I want that and I'm a different retailer, that kind of service? So, I mean, you're right, Aaron. Like search and personalization are 2 spaces that are significant right now in retail.
And that search piece has drastically changed. Where these newer tools, even on site, it's not going in and looking for all the tags that were done on all the images or the products via an intern that you brought in. It's agentically going in, looking for a match based on the actual image and then returning it. It's pretty crazy what's going on. There's also on the LLMs and the recommendations, that report that came out that 30% of Black Friday shopping on Amazon was done on Rufus, with like a 60% higher conversion rate. People are using
significant.
It's crazy.
It is. And so that's generated all kinds of, and think about the retailers we work with that are going, okay, well, how do I put that type of service on my platform? Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed how people shop now. I think ChatGPT did. I would used to search anywhere, new black tie. Right? Whether that's Amazon or that's Google, with ChatGPT, where it's like, tell me more. Now I'm prompting it more. Now when I go to search, I was like, hey, I'm headed to a wedding in Miami on the 5th of June. Can you make a recommendation on a tie? And it's going to say, oh, well, yeah, well, sure. Well, what color is your wife going to be there? What color is her dress going to be? That type of thing. And I get in this conversation. Now that's changed how I'm interacting. And yes, Amazon's picking that up. But I think universally, that's how people are starting to change how they interact and they do their own search. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you mentioned stores. Most of our retailers are opening stores, expanding stores, enabling the associates in stores with new tools, whether it be, like you mentioned, personalization, kind of customer information or engagement information, but also the types of tools to retain your staff so you're not having the turnover. We talked before we hit record about restaurants. I mean, that's a big challenge, right? In the restaurant space, having turnover and staff that work in restaurants. And so if you can keep them engaged and retained, I mean, there's a lot of work happening around that does tie back to data and some new AI capabilities.
Well, and that's where I think with personalization, I mean, you can go in so many different directions, and there is that capability that's valuable there, but it requires the companies to focus on, okay, what are our areas of excellence going to be? Like how, and what you're saying, Justin, right, where it's like, okay, how are we going to use these tools either with the associates or with the customer? What parts of the experience am I going to hone in on that actually deliver like the best possible version of that? And what is my competitive advantage going to be? Where am I going to shoot for excellence and become distinctive in the space? And it is, I think, those players who are kind of honing on, okay, yes, we have a clear vision of what our relationship to the customer is, and a clear way to pursue that excellence. They're able then to provide those personalization tools to deliver that vision of excellence in the end. I think the other thing that's interesting is that, I mean, the description that you used, Aaron, about the kind of your kind of wedding. I think as you talked about at the beginning of our conversation, this kind of need for like interchangeability, and I think that is one thing that we're getting asked kind of beginning questions on, in kind of the role that we play in the industry. Is there are kind of these questions about like, okay, well, blue is blue and red is red, and if you need a color, if you need a this or that, and the definitions are very clear, okay, that's fairly straightforward. But there are a lot of consumer interests and desires and values that are more ambiguous. And so one of the questions that we see popping up is, okay, how do we, if there are claims around like health or wellness, right? If there are kind of values of, in different areas, like how do I engage an agent? I want to engage an agent to really act out on that for me, right? If my family has certain dietary requirements, if they have certain health preferences, if I want things to look a certain way for my family, but how do I do that at a level of trust? And how can I trust the agent and the data that the agent is looking at, to be able to kind of build that environment where I can actually trust what's going on here. We do a lot in food safety, and we've done that for many years, and so that's something that that's an aspect of the conversation that we understand. But this, takes that conversation into an entirely new era.
What's next? I guess is it. Like, you guys have a crystal ball? I'm sure if you did.
Well,
but you have to sit in a unique space. You talk to a lot of people as well. Like, maybe you don't have the crystal ball, but I think, like, what do you see as the next phase of this? Because I think we're finally getting off the ground. To your point, the CEOs are recognizing they can't just say, we need AI. They're saying, okay, we need AI, but we're going to have data. Like, let's get our data and everything in order. It's like, and there's a purpose behind that in doing it. We talked about generative AI. Like, what's this next level of agentic shopping? Do you think maybe it's voice shopping? Like, I don't know. Like, I can see that happening. I'll give you a quick anecdote, and I'll let you answer. It's like my oldest is a sophomore in college. Came home for the weekend, just hung out. Right, didn't study for an exam on Monday. Like, I thought it was kind of cool. I was like, it's kind of funny, right? So he's got a cram on Monday. He's got a 2-hour drive back. He threw his course notes and the course guide into ChatGPT. He put it on top mode, and he just had a conversation with ChatGPT all the way back to school. Walks in, finishes the exam in 15 minutes. He's like, I think, the professor probably used ChatGPT, right? Like, maybe something like that.
Not outside of the realm of possibility.
But I was like, wow. I mean, and I have to put myself like, okay, what if I'm a 20-year-old, I'm a 22-year-old, like, I'm engaging in this stuff completely different, which means the rate of adoption, not only is the rate of it being developed taking off, the rate of adoption is taking off. Like, what do people have to be prepped for? I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, first of all, the tech is more.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe you're super excited about something, because I love this.
Yeah. First of all, the tech is much more accessible than ever before. So, you can build your own applications now without being a coder. I mean, let's start with that's one thing that's here now. It's going to only be more pervasive and challenge, I think, legacy thinking around. I'll call it software and services and solutions. The second would be, I think there definitely is a role. You asked earlier, Aaron, about the consultants or SIs. A great role for them is to help navigate so many different options. I mean, there's so many different large language models, so many different platforms, like which model for which use case, like what do I need to do with my data? Or I do think there's a great role for those consultants. Early days of Gen AI, I remember it was all the consulting firms are going to go away. That's not the case. I think it's only increased the need for good partners in that space. And then the third, I would say, is talent. Okay, so AI is going to eliminate jobs. Right? That was the challenge. That was the rumor. I actually think we'll see more hiring, especially with individuals that can quickly come in and pick up and use a tool set and have an understanding of what a business outcome should be. Right? I mean, there's a real need for people that can sit between this idea of data and tech and business value or use case. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for growth, even in the talent space.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there is growth in talent. I think it's going to be, it is going to be a question of, do I understand how to structure and approach and solve a problem? Do I know how to think through something? And so it's not going to be all about the technical skills, but it is going to be rooted in this ability to think through and probe and question and realize when you're kind of you're moving in the right direction, approaching the right answer. I think we've touched on it. I'd frame it a little bit differently. I think the democratization of the toolkit is the thing. So I think that's one thing that is going to blow everyone away, right? This ability to kind of build your own apps, that the acceleration of that, the democratization of that, the sense that I think in the if I talk to my kids, like the sense that you are locked into an application, and this is the thing that you use, like that's quickly going away. You just kind of build what you need, and so I think that's kind of one aspect of it. The other thing that I think is going to move, that's going to catch a lot of us off guard, and that is going to move very quickly, is how this agentic conversation marries up with hardware. That is going to happen head-spinningly fast, I think, and will have ramifications that I think we're just beginning to understand for both manufacturing and for the retail space.
Awesome. So as we get to the end here, people just reach out to you on LinkedIn. Is that the best way to get?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's an exciting time to be in the space, probably the most dynamic time to be in tech or even in our industries. I mean, there's a lot of growth to be had in retail and consumer goods. And I mean, like the last thing I'll just say is like, there's no such thing as a 5-year plan anymore, man. Like I think it's like
or a 3-year plan, or an 18-month plan.
Like, I mean, it's just fascinating, right? But no, I mean, this has been great. I mean, I'd love to connect with any of your listeners, and Wesley and I really enjoyed, I think, doing this show today. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, happy to keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. And I'll probably reach out to have you guys back on, because it's been not only very topical, but a very fun conversation. It's rare that
likewise
you get a couple great minds in this that really live in this space. I know there's a lot of people out there that like to believe they know it, but you guys are awesome. And maybe one day we'll have a whole one of these with just our avatars talking, right, in the metaverse. Remember that?
Totally. Oh my God, that's right. Whatever. Yeah, I won't even go there.
Well, Justin, this has been so much fun. With that, everybody, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.
Thanks, Aaron.